morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I am Joey Francis, your life, love, and relationship coach. Thank you so much for joining me. Are we being unreasonable? Are we asking for too much? This is essentially the tediousness of dating. Now, before I get into anything, okay, I want to say this one thing. First of all, actually, two things. I got a lot of things I want to say to you because that's the whole point of this podcast. Anyways, everything that I'm going to say to you is essentially my own opinion. It is 100% my own opinion. If you disagree, that is perfectly okay. I am perfectly fine with it. In fact, if you want to talk about your disagreements and why you disagree, you can go to my website, joeyfrancis.com, joeyfrances.com, and you can send me a message there and we can talk about why you disagree. But like I said, everything I'm saying here, as per my whole podcast series and everything that comes out of my mouth, is my own opinion, and you are perfectly allowed to disagree. Secondly, and this one's very important, each and every single one of us is 1000% entitled to want whatever it is we want. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're, a guy in his late 40s looking to date a woman in her late to mid 20s. I mean, it's a little disgusting, but that's your choice. It doesn't matter if you're a woman who's interested in finding only a man who makes like over $1 million a year. That's your choice. And here's the thing. When it comes to our preferences and the things that we want, we cannot look at someone else and, essentially disagree with them because it's their life, it's their choice. And I know there's a lot of times where, women might see a guy who is wealthy and good looking and, well off and done well for himself, maybe an older guy, and maybe they're an older woman. And rather than him dating her, they get mad because he's chasing someone younger. And there's times where men might see women and think like, hey, I'm a good guy. I'm going to treat you right. But I apparently don't make enough money for you. And because a woman wants a guy that makes, 6-7 figures a year, that guy is now like, oh, okay, well, that sucks and is stupid. Or another one. Again, this is based on preference, right? Women that want men that are extremely tall. It is what it is. That's their preference. That's what they want. And we cannot hold this against these people because each and every one of us is an individual. Each and every one of us wants what we want. It is why when you go to the supermarket, the cereal aisle is a whole aisle instead of just one box. Because each and every one of us has a different preference. We all want different things, and that's okay. But here is the caveat. Here is what we need to remember. That just because you are entitled to want whatever it is that you want, you must remember you are most definitely not entitled to get it. Whether your list is 2 lines long or 150 lines long, you could find it tomorrow. You can find it the next month, next year, 5 years, 10 years, maybe even never, depending on how long that list is. And that's just that. Too bad. Because you are not entitled to get the things that you want. Now, obviously, I create this podcast and I create this space to help those who are looking avidly and want to find a partner, want to create a lifelong relationship with somebody, a successful one. And this is essentially the next installment because I have some things that I need to say to you people. Because as you say, or as I said, and this essentially came from a conversation with a girlfriend of mine, are we being unreasonable? Are we asking for too much? And her and I were having this conversation, she was not in the greatest of place. She was sort of angry at the state of dating. And the thing is that, she's a beautiful woman. She's very intelligent. And the things that she's looking for are not anything I would even consider crazy. I would think that are fairly normal. She just wants like a good guy that can take care of himself, that is loving, caring, intelligent, good conversations, etc., etc., etc. Nothing like out of the ordinary for the most part, compared to like what other people might want. And because it just continuously doesn't happen for her, it starts to like chip away at our confidence. It starts to make us think like, hey, wait a minute. Like, am I deserving of all these things? Am I asking for too much? Because, this is becoming like a drag essentially, where, she goes online, and because she's a good looking woman, a lot of guys will, propose sex to her as opposed to getting to know her in relationships and things of that nature. And funny enough, this happens to all women. And I honestly am so sorry that men can be such pigs, because there's a right way and a wrong way of doing things. If a guy only wants a physical relationship with you and he presents it that way, saying like, hey, listen, I'm not interested in anything long-term or deep. I'm just looking for something very surface level and maybe like a physical relationship. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Going back to like what I just said, each and every one of us are entitled to want exactly what we want. And if at this time, this is what this person wants, then hey, all the power to him. If he's a guy that is using vulgar language and maybe sending dick pics and things of that nature, well, that's a different story, because you know what? F you. I was going to say it, but this is a family channel. Not really. Nonetheless, F you, And the same goes for women. I mean, just picking on guys. I can pick on women too, because there's women out there that I personally come across, right? And who'll literally say to me, oh, don't ask me out for a coffee date. Don't ask me out for, for a drink or for ice cream. If you want to get to know me, you got to take me out to dinner. And it's like, okay, well, I don't want to get to know you then. It's literally that simple. Because I think that when it comes to dates, and I know I'm going a bit off topic here, but when it comes to dates, the purpose of a date, and I've mentioned it before, is for us to get to know each other. What we're actually doing is irrelevant. What's relevant is you and me and us seeing if we match. Okay? Anyways, I digress. So again, talking with this girlfriend of mine, and, she was upset because she's essentially not getting anywhere with these guys. And, every day she goes onto the apps and she has like, tens, if not hundreds of guys that have like already liked her, and she's going through them and like, oh my God, I don't like this guy. I don't like that guy. And this guy sends me like this message. This guy sends me. And funny enough, I don't know if I mentioned this last week, but a guy would send her a message, and it was like this really sweet and funny message. And she's like, look at this. And it's like, what's wrong with it? If the guy was attractive, like if you were attracted to the guy, you would have loved that message, right? So this going back to based on like the things that you want, this guy has some of the things you want, but because you're not attracted to him, all of a sudden you get angry. And you're getting angry because it's like you're finding guys that has certain qualities you're looking for, and then you're not attracted to them. Or you're finding guys that you happen to be attracted to, and then they don't have the qualities you're looking for. And this is something that I had to remind her, and I'm going to remind all of you out there that are listening to this. You were looking for one person, supposedly. You were looking for essentially a needle in a haystack the size of the planet Earth. Literally. One person in the whole planet. However many billions there are nowadays. I think it's like, 7 billion people? And 7 billion people, you're looking for one. No, obviously, that's a bit absurd to really think about, because you're not essentially going to necessarily date someone from across the world. Although some of you might. It's going to be somebody that's somewhat local to you, unless you happen to meet them in a precarious way where you're, traveling for business or on vacation or something along those lines. But nonetheless, it is still one person out of many. Now, me, I'm in Toronto. Toronto has 3 million people, or give or take, maybe even 4 million now. You know what? 4 million is a nice rounder number. Let's use 4 million, right? So she is a woman in her early 40s, fully divorced, 100% ready to be committed to somebody, looking for that special person to spend the rest of her life with. And I commend her on that, because there's a lot of people out there that pretend that they're ready, that they're really not. Nonetheless, 4 million people in Toronto. This is just Toronto, not even necessarily the surrounding area. 4 million people in Toronto. Let's say half of that is men, half of that is women. So now we're down to 2 million people, right? Let's say 10% of those 2 million people are within her age range. Okay. Now we're down to 200,000 people. We're losing people fast. Let's say 10% are actually single. Now we're down to 20,000 people. Let's say 10% of that are guys that she might be attracted to. Now we're down to 2,000 people. I think I'm doing my math right. Now we're down to 2,000 people. And out of those 2,000 guys, right, now you're going to have to talk to them and see. Let's say 10% of that are guys that have a handful of qualities that she's looking for. Now we're down to 200 people. 200 people. So you essentially got to go through 200 people that are in the city to find someone willing to date, that's worthwhile to date and potentially have something with. That's a lot of people, like when you really think about it. This is why I put so much importance on talking to someone, getting to know them, and you knowing what you're looking for, right? Now, getting into the whole idea of what we're looking for, it was literally the second episode of this podcast. You know, what do you want and what you don't want, and how important these two factors are when it comes to dating and looking for someone. Because again, granted, you go online, like let's use like that case that I just said, you know, her 2,000 guys she finds attractive. Well, you go online, you don't know what they want until you necessarily talk to them, you know? And this is why I say talking to someone, getting to know them prior to like going out and spending all this extra time in another human being, we should find out the important things first. As I last week, are we having important conversations too fast, too soon? And again, knowing what we want, bringing these questions up, finding out whether these people have these things. But the question is, what is actually on your list? And this is where things might get a little controversial, because I personally believe that some of us might have our head up our asses in what the things we want. And I can think of one specific situation. I can think of a lot of situations, but one specific situation where this was a friend of a friend, and she was, and I think I even mentioned her in this conversation before, but she's in her mid 40s, has 2 kids. Okay. I'd say average looking, but that's completely subjective. Nonetheless, she wants a man who is extremely well off. She wants a man that's a university graduate. She wants a man that has a white collar job, like, and a bunch of other things too. But we're going to focus on these, because first and foremost, you're talking about a guy that's well off. Well, let's look at her, right? She's divorced, 2 kids, and I believe she's a teacher, which, you know, she probably makes decent money doing what she does. But she's also getting money from her ex-husband. So if she was to meet a guy who was in a similar situation as her, married, divorced, kids, he is now paying child support and alimony. Chances are. Now, I know that's not everybody. Chances are, because that's the majority, chances are that's what's happening. So well off, probably not anymore, even if he has a wonderful job, because he's essentially, you know, paying a percentage of his income to his ex-wife and to take care of his kids. So already there's an X. Now she says that she wants someone with a university degree. Man, I asked her, like, why do you want someone with a university degree? Whoops. Why do you want someone with a university degree? Oh, I want to make sure that he's intelligent. I'm like, okay, I mean, that's fair. But does he have to have a university degree, or do you want someone that's intelligent? And she said specifically, no, I want someone with a university degree. And I'm like, okay. I go, do you enjoy talking to me? Like, do you think that I'm intelligent? She says, yes. I go, do you think that I have a university degree? And she said, yeah. And I go, no, I don't. I went to college, and, maybe I come off being smarter than I am is because I just like to read, and I've read a lot of books, and I have I do obviously a lot of my own thinking. And maybe that's why I come off as smarter than maybe people would think of me being, because I don't have a university degree. Granted, I am a certified life coach, so there's something, okay? Nonetheless, she is very adamant on somebody having a university degree. And it's like, okay, I mean, I know people with university degrees that are absolute morons. A university degree does not necessarily make you a smart person. So if you're looking for someone that's intelligent, then, say I'm looking for someone that's intelligent, as opposed to I'm looking for someone with a university degree, because there's a difference there. There's going to be people like me out there that might be well-read and well-spoken, that don't have university degrees, that you might find very enjoyable to talk to. But then leading to the next thing, her wanting somebody that's white collar. And it's like, okay, is this because you want someone that doesn't get dirty? Is this because you want someone that, I don't know, because I was going to say makes good money, but the thing is like there's so many jobs out there that make good money that are not white collar. Essentially, her answer was because someone who's a white collar is going to be making more money. And it's like, I think you need to really sit down and think about that one. Because there's people out there with white collar jobs, accountants and people that work in marketing and advertising and things of that nature, where they may not make the most amount of money. At the same time, they might make truckloads of money. But, like when you're thinking about just money, and again, I think this is a problem, there's a lot of blue collar guys out there that do better than doctors and lawyers and accountants and marketing people and advertising people and et cetera, et cetera. The only difference is that they're working with their hands. They're essentially the ones that keep society running. But you have a problem with them for whatever reason. And I'm like, listen, at the end of the day, you can want whatever it is that you want. But I'm trying to help you maybe refine these things to be more reasonable, to open up your options wider. Because if you're looking for someone that's white collar because of the amount of money they make, well, who gives a shit if it's white collar? Because a lot of blue collar guys, like I said, probably make more money than white collar guys at the end of the day. So if that's your reasoning behind it, then why wouldn't you want to include a blue collar guy? And maybe because of her age and how she grew up or whatever the case is, she has this stigma in their head that a blue collar guy is, a hardworking guy that makes peanuts. And it's like, I hate to break it to you, that ain't the case. I don't think that ever was the case for the most part, but it's especially not the case anymore now. And this is what I mean about, knowing what you want and knowing what you don't want. Whether you think that your list is too long or not, I think that's almost beside the point, because it doesn't matter how long that list is. It's going to be tedious for you to find them. And you might be comparing yourself to how things used to be when you were younger. You might look back and say to yourself, hey, you know what? When I was younger, dating was so much easier. It was so much easier to meet somebody. And the funny thing is, it really wasn't, because when you were younger, could you sit on a toilet and, swipe right on a profile? No. So it definitely wasn't easier to meet someone when we were younger. We just want to idolize how things used to be because we all hate change. Well, some of us at least. Also, when we were younger, we were stupid. That's what it really comes down to at the end of the day. It was easier to meet someone when we were younger because our list of needs and wants was, does this person like me? Yes. Do I find them attractive? Yes. Can they speak English? Yes. Sold. And the English thing may not even be one of the prerequisites. And we were essentially dating anyone and everyone that we found attractive or interesting. And chances are it didn't work out because we had no idea what we were looking for. Our heads were so far up our asses because we're just dumb and we're just like looking for a good time. And even if we had like these high expectations of I'm going to meet someone and get married and blah, 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 blah. And then you go and like meet someone and then you're like dating them and find out like, wait a minute, I don't like this. I don't like the way they're treating me here. I don't like what they're doing there. And even in those cases, there are a bunch of us that actually married them and are now divorced, listening to this podcast, getting back out into the dating world. Right? And so this is why I'm saying the things that we want and don't want are very important. And when we were younger, our lists weren't that long. And that's why it seems like it was easier. But if you want it to be that easy, take that list of wants and don't wants and rip it up and just go out there and find someone that you're attractive to, and all the rest of their bullshit, just accept it because, you know, you want life to be easy. And that's that. Now, funny enough, I saw this post today, actually. You know, I was going to record this regardless, but I saw this post today and it really made me think. Because it's so relevant to the dating world nowadays. When a woman has her own money, looks good, and believes in God, there's really nothing a man can offer her except the way he treats her. Now, I know there's a lot of women out there that have a prerequisite of men that make a certain amount of money. And to some degree, listen, I get it. You obviously want a guy that's not going to leech off you, a guy that you don't have to take care of. And if you are fair that way, and you know, you're just essentially want to find someone that can live a similar lifestyle to you to some degree, then, you know, kudos to you. I think that you're being reasonable. But if you're one of those women that make like a very good living, and now you want someone who's doing better than you, and potentially not only better than you, but that can take care of you at the end of the day, well, then I think, you know, maybe you're asking for too much. And again, this is my personal opinion, because like what I just read, I think a lot of us are fixated on things that in the long run aren't going to be as important. Now, obviously, you know, money and things of that nature are going to be important, but if you're literally looking for someone that's going to take care of you, as in, you know, pay your bills and so that you don't have to work and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, like I said, I think you have your head up your ass and you're being a little unreasonable. Because at the same time, what if something like, you know, there's going to be people that might want that from you. And I know, because there's what was it, the Tinder Swindler on Netflix, about the guy that essentially swindled so many women out of their money and shit. That's what these women look like. So if you are one of these women, that's what you look like. You look like someone like that are essentially trying to take someone for their money. You might want the other things too, but because you want that, it makes you look a specific way. So going back to, you know, the things that we want and being reasonable, like that post says, maybe finding someone that treats us a certain way. And I mean, even I say this to you guys, aside from knowing what you're ready for, aside from knowing what you want and what you don't want, knowing how you want to be treated and how you want someone to make you feel, that is another prerequisite, right? And I think it's probably one of the more important ones. But going back to what we want and what we don't want, just to help you out to figure out how you actually get this list, because I personally thought that writing a list out of all the things you want and don't want, not that you can like literally sit down in one session and just do it, because it's an ongoing thing. But I honestly thought it wasn't that hard. I didn't think it would be that hard, you know? You just sit down, think about all your past relationships, think about all the things that were good, think about all the things that were bad, and think about all the things that didn't matter to you. And that helps you essentially shape your list. And that's it. Voila. Here you go. But again, within talking to people, some of them have a very, very hard time. And they're putting things on this list like, I want someone with a university degree. And it's like, well, what does that get you? Why is someone having a university degree a deal breaker for you or that important to you? Now, obviously, I can't answer that question because it's something within you. But again, if you're looking for someone who's intelligent, then write down someone who's intelligent. And here's another one. And I really want to get, like, this deserves its own episode one day, this whole idea of like masculine and feminine, because I still see it on women's profiles where they say, I want a masculine man. I want a masculine man that's going to let me be in my feminine. Well, what does that mean exactly? Because when I hear this stuff, based on the things people have told me, a masculine man, it's a guy that's going to take care of you. A guy that's going to protect you, because this is what they've said to me, a guy that's a protector. And it's like, protect you from what exactly? Like, do we live out in the forest that you need a man to, like, you know, keep bears away from you? Are we living in such a society where, you know, if you go out into the street by yourself, you're going to be kidnapped? And I'm not saying that this shit doesn't happen, but, like, you know, the amount that it does happen is so, like, slim to none, the chances are, of any of this shit actually happening. So I get it. You want someone that's going to protect you. And it's like, okay, what else? You want someone that's going to take care of you. You want someone that's going to protect you. What else? What else does it mean to be a masculine guy? Some will say a guy that's good with his hands. Some will say something else. And it's like, okay. But when we're figuring out, like, this list of what we want in somebody, as opposed to writing down these bullshit terms, how about you be ultra specific? When you say you want a guy to protect you, write that down. I want someone who's going to protect me. Protect you from what? I have no idea. But if that's what's important to you, then that's what's important to you. If you want somebody that is going to take care of you and provide for you, write that down. As much as I think that, you know, you're being ridiculous, write it down. It's what's important to you. That's what matters, right? Even if we disagree on it, that's what's important to you. And if you're a guy and you say, hey, you know what? I want a woman that's young and fertile because I still want to have a family. That's what's important to you. Write it down on your list. As opposed to saying, I want someone that's feminine. What does it mean to be feminine? Does it mean to be, you know, someone that's going to cook and clean for you? Does it mean that someone's going to do your laundry? Does it mean that it's going to be, you know, someone that essentially takes on the emotional burden for you? Like, I don't know what it means to you, because these words have different meanings for every single person on this planet. So as opposed to writing down things that are very broad and don't have a specific meaning, be specific. And when you write this list down, and again, going through your past and thinking about all the things that has happened to you in your life and in your relationships, and figuring out all the things you want and all the things you don't want, this is what I want you to do next. Go through every single line item and think to yourself, if I found somebody with everything else on this list, except for this one item, is it a deal breaker? And if the answer is no, take it off your list. It doesn't belong on your list. Your list isn't nice to haves. Your list should only be must haves and must have nots. Deal breakers only. Red flags. And this is why I guess it's hard for some people to create such a list, because of this reason. But this is the thing. When your list is filled with fluff that doesn't even matter, you might be canceling people out that don't necessarily deserve to be canceled out, because they have or don't have qualities that are on your list but don't necessarily matter to you at the end of the day. Because again, imagine you have your list and, you know, right off the bat, you find out that they have one quality that's on your list that you don't want them to have. And you're like, no, that's it. Got to cut it off. We gotta end this right here. without realizing that if they had everything else on this list, that wouldn't have mattered to you. But you'll never find that out because you've already cut them off, even though this one thing that they had, wasn't that big of a deal to you. The example that I can give is like smoking, right? Imagine you found someone that smokes and you're like, no, I really don't want someone that smokes, even though you're somewhat fine with it, right? And because they smoke, you're like, no, I don't want someone that smokes. Even though, again, that it's not that big of a deal to you. Like all your friends smoke, you've dated smokers before, you could potentially look past it, right? Like think of it more as a yellow flag. And this person could have every other quality you're looking for, but because they smoke, you're like, no, I don't want it. And you walk away. And then if I asked you, if you showed me this list and I said to you, hey, listen, I see you want someone that doesn't smoke here, right? Let me ask you, if a person had all these other qualities on your list, right? And they smoked, would you still cut them off? And then they would say to me, no, actually, it's perfectly fine. Like, it's not that big of a deal. It is what it is. I could probably live with it. I mean, it would bother me, but I could probably live with it. And it's like, okay, well, then it doesn't deserve to be on your list. If you found someone with all those other qualities and smoked, and you said to yourself, no, they smoke, like it's an automatic no, then it does deserve to be on your list. And this is how you essentially take your list and you clean it up. You streamline it, because again, it needs to be only deal breakers. Because the shorter the list is, the easier it is to find someone at the end of the day. Because like I said, and I'm just going to remind you again, just because you are entitled to want something you want, you are not entitled to get it. And this carries over to all the people out there that love to go on dating apps for a day or two, have a look around, maybe meet someone, maybe talk to them, get fed up, get off the app, take a month off, and then come back and do it all over again. And these are the people that are complaining like, oh my God, it's so hard to find someone and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, number one, it's not hard to find anybody. It's not hard to find anybody. We need to change the language here. It is not hard to find someone. It is tedious to find someone, right? Because if I literally took you and brought you into a big field and you see like 17 haystacks and I say, go through all these haystacks and find a needle. It's not hard. You just have to go and do it. And it's going to be tedious and it's going to suck. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the world of dating. Because this is it. It's finding a needle in a haystack the size of the world. Now, obviously, you're going to be looking a little bit more local when it comes to someone that you're going to potentially date. And I mean, granted, with things like the internet and FaceTiming and video chat and dating apps, yeah, it is a probable chance that you could find someone on the opposite side of the world and you'll have a long distance relationship, even though I believe they don't work. But it's possible. It is possible. And that's pretty much it at the end of the day. That's pretty much it, right? What we need to do as we get older, because of the things that we look for aren't necessarily specific, because of our pasts, because of what we read in books and magazines, or because what we see on TV or in movies, or because of stories we hear from other people. Because of what we hear from other people. We need to be extremely specific and only the things that are important to us. That's what our list needs to be. So when you then look back and say, hey, are you being unreasonable? Is it you're asking for too much? You can honestly say to yourself, no, this like bare minimum is what I require. bare minimum. Because every single point on my list is a deal breaker. It doesn't matter if they had 99% of my list. If they're missing this one thing, then it's an automatic no from me on my end. And now, when someone says to you, are you asking for too much? No, I'm not asking for too much because this is what I require. And I know, there's lots of studies out there and people asking others like, hey, if somebody had, 80% of what you wanted, would you accept them? And the funny thing is like when they ask guys usually tend to say yes. And women tend to say no. And then, at the end of the day, depending on which 80% it is, it may work out, it may not. Because it may be the deal breakers, it may be the fluff. And this is why I'm trying to tell you to get rid of that fluff. Guys too. And I know guys are very hard-headed and not a lot of guys like listening to me. But you too. When you write this shit out, and you should totally write this shit out instead of playing the game that, oh yeah, I know what I want. Oh, I have it all inside my head. I'm good. No, you're not. Because a lot of what you probably have in your head too is a bunch of fluff. Less fluff than women. I could almost guarantee it. But fluff nonetheless. Deal breakers only. That's what these lists need to be. And when they are deal breakers only, then and only then you are not asking for too much. So, just to recap, you are entitled to want whatever you want. Doesn't mean you'll get it. You might find someone within a year, within a month, within a day, within 5 years, 10 years. You might never find someone, depending on how long your list is. This is why I always say, it's completely like side note, you need to be happy first. You need to be happy single. You need to be happy with yourself. And then and only then can you go out and date. Because if you aren't and you're requiring someone else to provide you with happiness, guess what? It's not going to work out long term. It's not, because you're trying to get someone to supply you and themselves with happiness while you're just take from them. So be happy with yourself first, and then you can go out and date, and then you can figure out whether or not you're asking for too much. And if you need help to figure out whether you're happy or not, there's this great book. It's called Fate is Bullshit, A Logical Guide to Happiness, and it really helps. And on top of that, there's another book called The Logic of Me, A Guided Journal for Self-Discovery. Great. 2 great books at you helping to figure your shit out. Fantastic. You know where you can get them? At joeyfrancis.com, joeyfrances.com. And listen, if by any chance you disagree with anything I have to say here, because I don't even remember what I said, to be quite honest with you, I really have to go back and listen to it even like halfway through. My camera like cut out, and I actually recorded this twice now. So I'm like saying things to you, not remembering if it was in the second recording or the first recording. So I might have left a whole bunch of shit out that I wanted to say. Nonetheless, here we are. We're at the end. It is what it is. Done is better than perfect. That's a chapter in my book. And yeah, so if by any chance you did make it to this part, I thank you so much for coming. I really, really appreciate it. Just so you know, by any chance, if you are listening to this and you are with someone and you're planning on breaking up with them and like moving on with your life, I put a video on YouTube, a breakup video, to help people break up with other people without having to do it themselves. And so that you don't actually have to ghost them and you don't actually have to do it yourself. You could just send it to my video. It's like, the loser line back in the day. And if you don't know what that is, I guess I'm really showing my age. Nonetheless, thank you so very, very, very much for joining me this week. I really, really appreciate it. If you enjoyed anything I had to say, please share it with your friends, share it to social media. Let's build this community so that we can all help each other. And yeah, listen, this week I want you to go out into the world date with purpose, date with intention, and streamline your list. Figure your shit out. Figure out what is only the deal breakers, and that is going to be the most important thing for you. Until next time. That was just my phone ringing. So until next time.